this is a retool, rebuild year for the Bruins. I lean more towards rebuild. Don Sweeney says retool. But either way, you're going to need contributions. There you go. You're going to need contributions from your young crop of talent. And we've seen it over the years. You don't need me telling you. This prospect pool has been as bad as any in the NHL the last 5, 6, 7 seasons. They just have not had plug-and-play NHL guys ready to come up from Providence. This year, they've got a couple. And that's why the offseason so far has been so confusing to me for the Bruins, because you extended a bunch of these AHL guys and then you brought in fourth liners. So you're not going to play them at the NHL level. And that to me is super frustrating. We've seen guys like Fabian Lysell and Georgi Merkulov over the last couple of years who have been, I'm not sitting here saying they're going to be NHL All-Stars or anything, but let's see what they've got. Let's see what they can do, especially at the end of last year when the team sucked. Like, just give them a shot. And still it felt like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And one of the guys we were really excited about 2 years ago now feels like he's been forgotten entirely by the Boston Bruins. I'm talking about Matthew Poitras. When are we going to see Matthew Poitras on this team? Because the thing that worries me is going into opening night, the Bruins can send Matthew Poitras and Fraser Minten down to Providence, and they won't have to clear waivers. So that tells me that they are 1,000% going to do exactly that. Matthew Poitras has done what he can do at the AHL level. This guy needs to be playing in the NHL. And we'll find out if he can survive in this league. There's all kinds of talk of, he needs to get better at this, needs to get better on the power play. He's too small. He's 5'11". He's 180, whatever he is. Like, he can't survive the grind of an NHL season. Well, the only way we're going to find out if he can survive the grind of an NHL season is if he plays an NHL season. He got hurt 2 years ago after playing quite a bit in the first part of that centennial season in 23-24, went to the World Juniors. He got hurt. He missed most of the rest of the season. Last year, he was up and down to the tune of he's only played 66 NHL games in the last 2 seasons. And while the production, you could want more, 26 points in 66 games, he hasn't looked lost out there. And he hasn't looked completely overmatched by the physicality and the skill that comes at the NHL level. In fact, the second half of the season, when he was up there last year, he looked like your most offensively skilled bottom 6 guy by far. He was bringing you a much needed spark of offense, puck carrying, puck movement. I thought he was actually really sharp in the last couple of weeks of the season. And yet that's why it's so frustrating for Bruins fans if we see him at Providence at the beginning of this season. Played 40 games in Providence last year where he had 41 points, 17 goals, 24 assists. He needed to get better on the power play. He got better on the power play. 7 power play goals, had a couple of postseason power play goals as well in 8 games. Shot percentage of 23%. Now, I know a lot of people out there are going to say, well, that's not sustainable. 23%. That means he's not much of a goal scorer if he's only getting 17 goals in 40 games on 23% shooting percentage. Yeah, you can say that's unsustainable. To me, what that also says is he's already played it at this level. Okay, what more do you want him to do at this level? He needs the next level. He needs to play in the NHL for 80 games, man. Like, you've got to see what you have here. The Blackhawks, who I saw play a bunch last year living in Chicago, they were horrible. They knew they were horrible, but these kids played every night. They weren't sending guys down and bringing them back up. They weren't doing this half in, half out crap that the Bruins did all of last year. And it looks like they're going to do again this year with the bottom 6 guys that they signed in free agency. They just let their guys learn the lessons. They knew they were going to suck. If you want to say that's bad for their mentality, that's one thing. But these guys are learning physically how to play in the NHL night in, night out. They know what the rebuild is. The Bruins have stunted their own rebuild by keeping Matthew Poitras and Fabian Lysell and Georgi Merkulov, and at the end of the season, Fraser Minten, down in Providence. There comes a point with these guys that doesn't make any sense anymore. In the case of Merkulov and Lysell, they're 24, 25 years old. Like, what good is it going to do to keep them in the AHL? Matthew Poitras, younger, going to turn 22 in December. Fraser Minten, I think only about 21 as well. Like, those guys are younger, but they're also your two top forward prospects at this point, and you're probably not going anywhere this year. I would rather see Fraser Minten and Matthew Poitras out there than Sean Kuraly and Johnny Beecher, career Jag guys. Okay, they're not giving you much. I'd at least love the promise of seeing these young kids. And there has been a projection out there that I actually really like. It's the flowchart line projections for the Bruins in 2025-26. And what they've got is a third line with Tanner Jeannot on the left wing, Matt Poitras, naturally a center, playing on the right wing, and Fraser Minten centering that third line. To me, I'll take that. I'll take that 10 times out of 10. Fraser Minten is probably going to be a bit of a better center than Matt Poitras, although I do think Poitras can be a center in this league. Needs to get better on faceoffs. But if you're worried about how slight he is, fine. Stick him out on the wing, and the other wing is an absolute nail gun in Tanner Jeannot. I don't love the Tanner Jeannot signing. I never will. But this is a spot where he's actually going to play a serious role for you, where he's kind of babysitting more or less these younger, slighter lads in the bottom six like Fraser Minten and Matthew Poitras. But this was a guy, man, his skill looked like it jumped off the chart in 23-24, those first couple of months before the World Juniors. Maybe it's because we're just not used to young guys with a ton of skill. But there was a thought there that this could be your next David Krejci, your next Patrice Bergeron. I don't think the kid's going to become a Hall of Famer like those guys, but he definitely shows some of the traits, the puck carrying that those guys had. I think he can play a full 200-foot game like Patrice Bergeron did. Obviously, again, not to that level that Patrice Bergeron did it, but I think there is a path for Matthew Poitras to be one of your top six centers in the very near future. And if you're looking at these line charts and the future of the Bruins, he kind of has to be that, right? I mean, we've learned the hard way over the last two seasons. Those top six centers, let alone a number one center, do not grow on trees, and they usually don't make it to market in the NHL. And even when they do, the Bruins don't pay premium value for the best free agents. They pay premium value for Elias Lindholm, which is certainly not one of those transformational free agents that you can get out there on the market. But these guys don't make it to free agency very often. It's very tough to go out and buy or trade for a number one center. So when you have one that could be a top six center in your prospect pool, what are we waiting for? Get him up playing in the NHL. Again, I don't think he's going to be on the roster opening night just because I don't think that's how the Bruins are operating. And that sucks because we're really into like Matthew Poitras needs to show us something time. Whether he's going to be a part of your future, whether he's going to be a valuable trade chip for someone that young, we've got to see if Matthew Poitras can do it. He was a guy who was had a ton of hype around him from Bruins fans going in the beginning of the 23-24 season as kind of that future Patrice Bergeron. And now it's like he's been forgotten about. He wasn't on the opening night roster last year. He probably won't be on the opening night roster this year. And to me, I say, why? He needs to be playing NHL games. We need to see if he can be a part of the future of this team. Sooner rather than later, you got to find out if you're going to be paying him long-term, if he's going to be a top two center, or if you're going to trade him for a big-time piece. But even going through that chart here, like it still brings up some other problems. Like this, the way it looks right now means Georgi Merkulov doesn't get a chance. It means Fabian Lysell, yet again, doesn't get a chance. So that's where I'm mostly at with the Bruins. It's just giving their young guys a chance, and Matthew Poitras is chief among them. I can't believe that he has been buried so far down the chart. For who? For what? For Tanner Jeannot? For Sean Kuraly? For John Beecher? Like Matthew Poitras should be getting a chance over half the guys who are in the bottom six for the Bruins right now. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. What do you see Matthew Poitras producing this year? And do you see him as a big part of the Bruins' future? Let me know in the comment section below. Like and subscribe if you are excited for this Bruins season coming up in 25-26 for better or for worse. Let me know what you guys think. Like and subscribe. Find us on YouTube live at high noon Eastern time every weekday, and then wherever you get your podcasts as well. I'm your host, Cam Stuart. Zach Burke keeps us on the air. Check out the other videos on the channel talking Bruins and everything else going on in the world of Boston sports.